Joining tonight. My name is Matt Fitzgerald. I'm a volunteer on the board with Rhode Island Families for School Choice, and I assume everybody did watch the video, so I'm hoping everybody enjoyed it and learned a lot from it. Just a few brief housekeeping rules. If everybody could please stay on mute. If you do have a question later on, we will have a Q&A, and at that point, if you wouldn't mind raising your hand through Zoom, or otherwise we'll respond if you just wave your hand up too, but if you want to raise your hand through Zoom, that would be awesome. The Zoom meeting is being recorded, so if you could please keep that in mind. And as we start, I just want to give you a very brief background on Rhode Island Families for School Choice. A lot of you may know we believe parents are in the best position to choose the educational environment for their child. As we go into this meeting, I want to recognize all of the volunteer members of the Rhode Island Families for School Choice Board. There was a ton of work behind the scenes to get the video produced, and everybody just did an amazing job. And I will actually have our special guests say a few words in a bit, but just to start off and recognize them, I hope I didn't leave anybody out, but we do have Miss Rhode Island, Jonét Nichell, who joined us. We have Andrew Campanella, from National School Choice Week. Our great host, Walter Blanks Jr. from the American Federation for Children. School choice advocate, I think some of you were talking to her earlier, Virginia Walden Ford. And also, I believe Noelle Delaney from National School Choice Week joined as well. So also, Father Frank Santilli, I'd like to thank him. He was at St. Philip's Parish, and he did allow us to use the parish center for the video recording. And of course, it was done in a nice COVID compliant manner, so it was very awesome. And finally, we do like to thank Paul Mullen of DC Collective for doing the video for us. So again, for our special guests, I'll have you say a few words in a bit, but before we begin, I'd like to ask the director of Rhode Island Families for School Choice, Ed Bastia, just to say a few words. And I'd appreciate you starting off, Ed. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you, Matt. Thank you so very much for agreeing to host this evening for us. And you're doing a fine job, by the way. I'd like to offer my own special thanks to our partners, the folks who were interviewed, our honored guests, and all the members of Rhode Island Families for School Choice for all their dedication to our mission. And we hope that this evening proves to be very fruitful. I'd also like to thank the people who have logged in tonight. We welcome you, and we hope that you learn a little bit more about our group and our ministry and our mission here in the state of Rhode Island. And please walk away from this tonight knowing that you can also get involved in advocating for equal access to all forms of quality education and programming for all students, regardless of family demographics. Please join us. We welcome you. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Ed. I appreciate that great introduction. I'd like to have our special guest kind of give a brief overview of themselves and what they do. I'd say if you can keep it maybe to about 2 minutes, 3 minutes at the maximum, that would be appreciated. I'd like to start off with our host, Walter Blanks Jr. from the American Federation for Children. Walter, can you just give us just a little brief background of yourself and how you came to be involved in school choice?
Yeah, well, first off, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, School Choice Rhode Island, for inviting me out and having such a great dialogue. But yeah, my name is Walter Blanks Jr. from the great state of Ohio. School choice kid, as my boss and a lot of people that I work with at AFC like to refer to me as. And I realized I had a really unique perspective in this movement, not only as someone who came from lower income communities, but also benefited from school choice and lived, the life experience. And so got plugged in very early on with various organizations and kind of found my footing in this movement. And now graduated high school, graduated college, which is very, very low probability statistically where I come from. And yeah. And so now I'm in Washington D.C. and I'm continuing this fight and fighting for more kids who are just like me, who need that same opportunity. And so really glad to be here and engaging in this conversation.
Great, Walter. Thanks again for being with us. I really appreciate it. Next, I'd like to go to, if everybody could just go
Christ,
on,
have mercy.
if everybody could go on mute, that would be awesome. Thank you very much. If I could go next to Jonét Nichelle, Miss Rhode Island. Thank you so much for joining us. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to join us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. Well, my name is Jeannie Nichelle, and I am originally a Connecticut native, but I've been in Rhode Island for about 4 or 5 years now, so I'm basically from Rhode Island. I had the pleasure of representing our state at Miss USA. I am a social worker. Usually I work with kids, and I used to work with at-risk youth. I absolutely loved it. However, my career has kind of taken me through a few different paths, and now I work in Woonsocket with connecting, sorry, my dog's in the way, with connecting for children and families, and I work with the career development department. So I grew up in Connecticut, as I said, and I lived in one town and I went to school in a different town. So I definitely understand the need for having better systems and support for all demographics. I went to an inner city school actually because our performing arts school was in a different town than I lived in. I lived in North Haven and I went to New Haven. So I'm really excited to be here and hear everyone's perspective on things and share when I can and continue to work with the organization. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonét. Thank you so much for joining us. Next, I'd like to go to Virginia Walden Ford. As I was saying earlier, I can't stop saying Miss Virginia. So, Virginia, if you could just give us a little background about yourself. And I am getting a little bit of feedback, so if anybody could just go ahead and mute their phones would be good.
I'm Virginia Walden Ford. Thank you all for having me here. I love Rhode Island. I had an opportunity to visit last year, and it was an amazing experience. I work with children in Washington, D.C., and helped lead an effort that created a scholarship program for low-income children. I got into it as a mother, fighting for my own child who was really having difficulties in school. And I always believed that it was a better way. So I did that, and the effort became an amazing effort of low-income parents and working class parents and supporters who got together to make sure that this scholarship program was something that passed through Congress. It was in the 2000s. This program was actually implemented in 2004. So it's been around for 18 years now. And we've educated through the DC Opportunity Scholarship Program over 11,000 children. It's something that I feel very passionate about, fighting for kids, and I continue to do that now. So it's been an incredible journey.
Thanks, Virginia. And if anybody has not had a chance to see the movie Miss Virginia, I highly recommend it. It's an amazing story about your life in the fight to get educational opportunities for all the kids in DC. So you're an inspiration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to go to Andrew Campanella, who's president of National School Choice Week. Andrew, if you could say a few words, please.
Thank you so much, Matt, and thank you to everybody who's watching tonight. I joined tonight filled with gratitude for Rhode Island Families for School Choice, for my colleagues who are on the call from National School Choice Week, including Noelle Delaney, for Virginia Walden Ford, who was one of my mentors and is a dear friend, and for each of you for tuning in. The goal of National School Choice Week is to let families know about the options they have for their children's education: public, charter, magnet, private, online, and home. And it's also to shine a bright and positive spotlight on the vital importance of making sure that every child has access to an education where he or she can learn, thrive, succeed, and be happy. I know that's your goal. It's our goal, and we've celebrated together for many years now. This year, instead of big events where we freeze our butts off, we're on Zoom. And it is the way it is, but we're making the best of it, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Andrew, thank you so much. Noelle Delaney is from National School Choice Week as well, and she's a Director of Outreach. Noelle, if you could say a few words as well, please.
Hey.
Yeah, I can't hear you, Noelle. You might be on mute, possibly. Yep, still having a little difficulty hearing you, Noelle.
I am sorry, y'all. I am having major technical difficulties. I am here.
No worries. Feel free to go ahead, Noelle. Thank you.
You know what? I'm gonna hop. I'm so sorry. I'm having internet problems, Matt. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have Andrew go back and because I can't hear you. What's going on? I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. I appreciate you joining us. So we could have you say a little something later if you'd like. So no worries at all. I'd like to start the conversation off with with the group. And again, everybody who's involved in school choice is looking to. And I think if you think about it, they're looking to do what's best for their children. So when you think about school choice, the first thing advocates will say is, they're looking to do what's best for the child and for their interest. I think one of the most challenging things, in my opinion, in the last year is obviously the pandemic. And I'm wondering if anybody on any of our guests or anybody on the board of Rhode Island Families for School Choice would like to address how kids have coped in the last year with the pandemic. What do you see as the challenges everybody has faced this past year?
I'd like to respond, just give my thoughts. I've spent the last year talking to parents virtually, going out into my community and find out how parents are doing, talking to my children, talking to people on the phone. And it's been a really difficult year for many. A lot of kids are doing really well because I think parents have stepped up and figured out how to help their children. But I think it's been a tough year, but I want to give everybody credit for coming together and trying to find ways to make sure children can learn. So I don't think it's been, I hear sometimes, oh, it's been a lost year, and I don't think so. I think children have been able to have access to online virtual programs, online schools, and all the kinds of things they need to ensure that they get the best education possible. I've been very hopeful and very optimistic about what I've seen from children that I have access to. And I think that school choice has made this even better because there are so many people that are involved via school choice.
Virginia, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I was thinking maybe if Jonét could mention something about this. I think, Jonét, you said something about, correct me if I'm wrong, you're involved in social work. So I imagine maybe you've seen a lot of kids or teenagers who have been incredibly impacted by this in the last year. If you wouldn't mind saying something about that, if you could.
Yes, so I work with adults, but the program that I work with, we basically try to find those who are unemployed and we try to find them jobs. And a lot of times these parents have kids and it's been a constant battle with them trying to find time for their own schoolwork because it's a 12-week course. And within that course, 5 days out of the week, they, for 6 hours, come on and they're doing coursework and trying to figure out how to get a job and get those skills that some of them may not have. So it's been very interesting to see how creative these parents have gotten with not only taking care of themselves and making sure that they're creating a better future for their children, but also making sure that their kids are getting their work done. One of my daily tasks is to take attendance, and I'm just making sure that everyone is tuned in and paying attention. And if not, I then call and, see what's going on and see how I can best assist them. But there have been a lot of barriers for these parents, especially with young children, because you are having to be so hands-on and you're basically sometimes having to teach your kids, even though they're on Zoom all day. And I commend teachers too, because it's been very difficult for everyone. I think it's just been such a huge learning curve for some people who aren't very tech savvy. It might be very difficult. And I know myself, I battled COVID for a while, so I had to learn how to work from home, which was very interesting. But I think that it's been very difficult on the parents. As I said, it's just more of them having to figure out how they can get their own work done and get their kids' work done as well.
Thanks, Jonét. Maybe if I could direct this to the board of Rhode Island Families for School Choice. If anybody wants to speak to it, maybe Ed Bastia, if you would like to say a word or two about it, maybe how you've seen in the past year how Rhode Island families are dealing with COVID-19.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matt. Families are struggling, and we've seen this in our own family. We have relatives who have children at home, and if you can put this in your mindset, the picture of a family sitting around the dining room table and mom and dad are trying to do their work from home, and yet their kids are still trying to do their work, and mom has to help the child, dad has to help the child, and it's not been the best of circumstances, but we're all muddling through this, and we all, it's still only a year. We haven't done this our whole lives, so we still don't know how it's going to work out. But I think one thing that has come very, very clear to me in this past year is that parents want to be more directly involved in their child's education. Parents want to have a greater say in what's happening in their child's education. Parents want to be able to choose where they're sending their child to school. And that's come out very, very clearly to us in this past year. Now, we have some educators on the screen, some people from the board. Perhaps as an educator, you'd like to talk a little bit about it. Would anybody like to jump in?
Erin, I see you're looking to join in. You want to, you might be on mute.
Okay.
Thanks, Erin.
Thanks. My name is Erin Clark. And I can kind of speak to that as a parent, an educator, and an administrator. I'm principal of a small private school, and it has been a challenging year. We're very fortunate in our school that we're small enough that we can implement safety regulations for COVID, that all of our students have been in person, unless they've been quarantined, in which case they do our version of distance learning. But you see it everywhere. Parents have to work, and we're getting a lot of calls at our school for people that in their school that their children are at right now, where it's all distance learning. It's just not working for their children. And we're a tuition-based school, so that is a little bit of it's a pressure for parents, because they want their child to have the benefit of in-person education, but they may not have the extra money, and they may have to quarantine, or may have been out of work for a long time. So even though it's working very well at our school, I think that there are larger issues in the state, where I think choice, being able to have a little bit more freedom, and the ability to send your child somewhere else would be very helpful.
Thanks, Erin. I appreciate that. Does anybody else want to comment on that at all? If you want to wave your hand or raise your hand in Zoom, feel free to. Sandra?
Hi, everyone. I'm part of the board, and I'm also a parent of 2 children in a private school. And when the pandemic hit, we were very overwhelmed. And I both got a pay cut. We were grateful that we were still working, but we both got a pay cut because of pandemic. They had to decrease employment for certain people. And that got us to think, should we even keep our kids in the private school? And then being, at home, working from home as well. We did a lot of thinking, talking. We talked to, I believe I talked to Mr. Heber, who's on the Zoom call as well. Hi, Mr. Heber. We talked to the administrators there, And one thing that I do appreciate, we still have them in the school, thankfully. We were able to work things out. It was just really stressful to think about that while we still had to maintain some sort of normality. But I'm grateful that we kept the kids in school. My husband said we have to do whatever possible to keep them there. We did look into putting them in public school for just a moment, and we said no, for many reasons. But it was just hard. It was really, really stressful emotionally. Our kids were stressed out about it. But now, things are, picking up. They are in school in person. And I'm just grateful that I'm here and that, we could start talking about this some more and educate our parents about it, because I think our parents don't know that they have a choice and that they have a voice.
Thanks very much, Sandra. Something I'm thinking about, I've heard this question before, and there's always different answers for it. And first person I'm thinking of here is Andrew Campanella, if maybe he would take a shot at this question. For something for all of us to think about as we advocate for children. When you pick a college, children aren't told, you have to go to this particular college. So my son's going through the application process now. He's not being told, okay, you live in Warwick, you have to go to this school, this college. So why is it once you hit 18, all of a sudden magically you can pick wherever you want to go to? But if you're under 18, you're in a particular zip code and you have to stay there. I'm wondering why. What is the thinking? How do we change that thinking that kids under 18 can really pick where they want to go?
Well, that's a great point, and it's a good question, and it's something we absolutely need to do, because in no other aspects of life in the United States do we have no choice. And if you think about college, higher education, and if you think about just basic decisions that we get to make every day, if you want to eat breakfast, you can eat cereal, a bagel, you can eat eggs, you can eat bacon. There's a lot of things you can eat. We make every day probably dozens of decisions before lunchtime. And so kids get used to making decisions. Parents are used to making decisions, whether they're small decisions or big decisions, like what kind of car to drive, where to live, who to marry, whether to have kids, all of those things. We're expected as Americans to make decisions, and also we're held accountable by society if we don't make good decisions. And yet in education, in too many places, there are not choices for families. So we need to just inject the same level of individual determination and freedom to choose in education as we have everywhere else. And so that's why I love school choice, because it's not about saying that one type of school is not doing a good enough job for all kids. It's not saying that one type of school is the best choice for every single child out there. It's saying, hey, you might like eggs, I might like bacon, she might like toast. You pick what you want to eat for breakfast. And if your kid likes a specific theme or instructional style, they should be able to go to a school that reflects that. And if your other child might have gifts or talents when it comes to music or the arts, they should be able to go to a school that reflects that. It's about matching kids up with environments that meet their needs, with the end goal of kids being, they're learning, happier, and more successful.
Thanks, Andrew. I know Ed Bastia would like to say a couple of words as well. If you could go ahead, Ed.
Thank you. And thank you, Andrew, for that very eloquent discussion. And that brings me to a point here locally in Rhode Island, and that is why we're doing this. We all need to come together for the purposes of letting our voices be heard. We need to come forward. We need to tell our legislators, the members of our General Assembly, our elected officials, that the time is ripe for school choice. We need to move forward and we need to step in unison. And that's one of the reasons why we're hosting this wonderful event this evening. And we need the help of everyone who's here. And you can sign up by going to our website and registering your name and contact information, and we will circle back to you. Okay, Matt, thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Virginia, if you'd please go ahead.
And one of the things I agree with Ed and Andrew, and hello, Ed. but we also have to encourage parents to use their voices. We've been told so many times and through so many years, and we know the kinds of things that they need. So by getting together with educators and working together on behalf of our own children, we make really good choices, but we have to have those choices available to us. My children, some went to private school, somebody went to public school, somebody went to a charter school, but they were choices that were based on the needs of my children. And it worked out great for them. But we have to make sure that parents know that they can use their voices to say, this is what I want for my child. And as Ed said, in Rhode Island, you can sign up and be a part of that. And I urge parents that are on this call, on this Zoom, to get involved, to use your voices, to speak out on what you want for your children.
Thank you, Virginia. Kathy, can you go ahead, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. First of all, I wanted to say what a nice job everybody did on that video. It was fantastic. And in the interest of full disclosure, I come to my interest in school choice by virtue of being married to Ed Bastia. So although my professional career is mostly with the elderly, I've learned an awful lot about school choice. And I wanted to just say one thing about the time we're in and the pandemic. Last March, when this all really began and everything shut down, many of you probably like me thought, oh, this will be over a month, 2 months, and we can go back to the way it was. Well, almost a year out now, I think we all realize we're never going back exactly to the way it was, because we've learned so much in the last year. And you've talked about some of the things that parents have dealt with, helping kids learn online at home, teachers learning to do both in person and online and all of that. I think that it brings a little bit of more acceptance to most people that we need to deal with change. We need to anticipate change, and we need to find different ways of doing things. So the time is right. I think that maybe a lot of us are in the mode of being open to talking about different ways of doing things. I know it's a hard sell in Rhode Island, but people need to speak up, as Virginia said. By the way, hi, Virginia, hope things are well. We need to be vocal with those people who represent us. We really do. And it's as simple as that phone call. Keep up the good work, everybody.
Thanks, Kathy. And just I'll add to the shout out to the entire board and everybody else who put this together. It's amazing, all the work that was done behind the scenes. Before we go any further, this discussion is awesome, but as promised, Erin Clark will announce the winners of our school choice contest. So Erin, if you wouldn't mind taking it away for a couple of minutes and maybe describing the contest and who the winners are.
Okay, great. Thank you, Matt. So Rhode Island Families for School Choice sponsored an essay and poster contest that was open to all students in the state of Rhode Island from preschool through high school to tell us why they love where they learn. And our hashtag was Love Where You Learn Rhode Island. We got some wonderful entries from all different kinds of schools. And I'm very happy to announce our winners. In our poster entry contest from kindergarten, Hunter Cordero, who attends a private school, Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Bristol. In the 3 to 5th grade division, we have Grace O'Donnell from West Bay Christian Academy. From the middle school category, Clara Jamro from Our Lady of Mount Carmel, also 8th grader. And from a high school in Rhode Island, LaSalle Academy, Aria Tier, who is a junior at LaSalle. Those were our poster winners. They did a really great job of including, like, the posters were just wonderful. They they spoke volumes about why the children loved where they learned. We also had an essay portion of our contest. We didn't get any essays from our preschool through grade 2, so we had a tie for grades 3 to 5. And the two students who won, the first one was Christian Teolis. He's from St. Mary's School. He's in 5th grade. And he tied with Annalise Guadaro from Bishop McVinney School, who is in 5th grade. From the middle school category, Elena Barolini from St. Rose of Lima School, who is an 8th grader, also tied with Esther Tattlebaum, who goes to Providence Hebrew Day School. And both of those young ladies are 8th graders. And their essays were so very well read, so very well written. And they expressed how much their schools mean to them, what they're learning, and how it has benefited them. So those were the winners for our contest. Every winner is going to be awarded a $50 Amazon gift card, which we are going to deliver to their schools and have the administrators pass them out. Everybody who entered will also get a certificate of participation signed by Mr. Bastia, who's the director of our Rhode Island Families for School Choice. And it was just really great to read and to see all of their ideas and thoughts. And it just it brought home to me anyway, how much these children love their school, love their teachers, and how having the just right fit for a child really, really helps them in so many ways to express themselves and to makes them confident. It was great. It was just wonderful. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Erin. I think you hit something. There was a point there that I think everybody can almost agree on 100%. Is it's about the kids. We want to do what's best for the kids, and they have to be first in everything that we do. And especially in this past year, we've got to make that the focus. Did Rep Chippendale join us tonight? I don't know if he was on. I don't want to overlook him if he did join us, because he was on the video. I don't believe he's with us, but just wanted to recognize him as well. We're approaching probably about half an hour now. The conversation is really good. And does anybody have any particular questions for the board or any of our special guests that you'd like to ask? Feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to. I don't see any hands going up. If not, I'm going to ask the questions.
Wait, I have a quick question.
Walter, please.
Yeah, so this is for, of course, my hero role model, Miss Virginia. First off, I hope you're doing well. My mom sends her best. She tells me every time I see you to tell her that she says hello, so she'll be happy about that. But so you've been in this fight for a while, of course, and a trailblazer, a pioneer in this movement. What advice do you have, selfishly for me, but for any of the next generation of leaders and world changers and ed reformers, especially during times like now, where there's a lot of hostility toward our movement and toward what we want for children across the country? Like how do we stay on that track, and how do we keep pushing, especially during times like now?
Hi, Walter, and please tell Tracy hi for me. I think about her often. When we started this fight, we were in the midst of a pretty tough battle. There was a lot of opposition and a lot of people that didn't agree. I started 20 years ago, so at that time there were not a lot of people that even knew what school choice was, and certainly didn't understand us wanting to say anything or to be a part of it or anything. And we got together, we talked with parents, we made them understand that they had every right to speak on behalf of their children. I think up until that point, most parents were reluctant to say anything because they didn't realize that they had a right to say anything. So it took a lot of encouragement. I often told the parents, this is your child. You know what that child needs. There has to be a way we can all come together and make that happen. And we just really, believe me, we sort of ignored the opposition. We went forward with what we wanted to say. We aligned ourselves with people that supported our efforts, AFC and many other organizations that supported parents, that cared about what parents thought. And we made our appeal. We did it with dignity. We did it with love. We did it with courage. We did it with lots of information about what was going on in schools and why they needed to change. It was, and bringing that many people together, you know, parents need to know that one parent can maybe say a few words, but 1,000 parents can really make changes. And that's what I think it became for us. You know, we knew what we wanted to say, but as more and more parents were a part of that, there people started really taking us seriously. And I think around the country, whatever opposition there is and will be moving forward, then just keep in mind that you have every right to fight for your child. You have every right to speak on that child's behalf. And I think that that helps make that less scary, you know. And, you know, I was reading something today that said, they kept telling me I couldn't, so I did. And it was, that's what happened. I mean, they told us we couldn't do it, but 1,000 parents and 20,000 parents around the nation fought for their children. And the school choice, the 30 or so school choice programs there are, you know, that came a lot from fighting, you know, from speaking up for our kids, from showing the power of a parent. And we are still powerful.
Thanks, Virginia. I'd like to say that can be one of the toughest things to do, is to speak up.
It is.
And you know, you get on a meeting, you host it. Every situation's different. You know, people may be confident in one area of life, and then when they have to speak up in front of a politician, they get really nervous. But I think sometimes people just have to say, okay, it's my child. Nobody else is going to know what's best for them, and I'm just going to do it.
Well, Matt, let me say one more thing, and I'll shut up. But I was that parent. I mean, the idea of getting before people and speaking shook me to the core. I mean, I would get ill, you know, just the thought of saying it. But you know something? I'd look at that child, or I'd look at a picture of my child, and I would say, but he's worth speaking up for. And with all my nervousness and all my fears, you know, that became my focus. I focused on him initially and kids all over the country eventually. And which is what changed me from that parent that was afraid to speak out. We have a right to speak out for our kids. We just got to go and find that voice inside of us that is there and that can proclaim how we feel about our children in front of the kitchen at the kitchen table, in front of our friends. And we just have to say it to other people. You know, they told us, you know, DC parents won't fight for their children. And I said to the parents, they're telling us we can't fight. We have to fight. We must fight. And we did.
Thanks, Virginia. And I'll say there's always going to be pushback. You know, people are always going to push back, and everybody just has to be expecting it. You know, be firm in your point, advocate for your child, and you'll gain confidence pretty quickly. Now, I think I've left a lot of members of the board off to the side here. I don't know if anybody on the board for Rhode Island Families for School Choice want to say anything in particular, add to the conversation at all. Okay, I think we're getting pretty close to the end. Oh, Denise, go ahead, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Denise. I'm one of the newest members of the board since last year, and I take school choice near and dear to my heart. But however, I feel that as a parent, as I begin my journey of advocating for school choice, I think there's such a disconnect where folks think that it's just advocating for our private schools. And I feel that for parents across Rhode Island to understand that it's not advocating for the parents who are fighting for that tax dollar to come to us so we can send our children to a private school, because that is our choice. However, we're fighting for all children so that they can cross across this little state of Rhode Island. And if I want to go to Warwick, although I probably wouldn't or Narragansett, because it's only 20 minutes away, but I want to have that as an option. I want to have an option to send my child to a charter school. And even though it is a lottery system, but give me a chance to send my child there and not based on my zip code. And I think that where Rhode Island Family for School Choice needs to look at, and the direction that I hope we continue to strive for, is that we're not fighting just for the public and for the private schools, but we're fighting for the public schools, we're fighting for the charter schools, we're fighting for a chance for all children to have a right and for the parents to have a say finally. And I feel that we are making strides, but we're still not there. And just making sure that our message is clear, that it's not just about one outlet, it's about all outlets.
Thanks, Denise. Yeah,
That's all I gotta say.
I agree. It's an all-in for, I think, for all of us. I have friends who have kids in public school and private schools, and so I think making education better is the goal here for the kids. Lillian, you have a hand raised if you want to go ahead and say something.
Yes, I wasn't sure if you could hear me. I had a lot of difficulty with background
You sound
during
good.
most of it. Can you hear me?
Yep, you sound perfect.
I sound perfect. Okay. To go back to one of the comments that you were looking for comments on, what's going on with the pandemic and the types of learning and the different schools and systems, whether it's public or non-public. I think when all is said and done, because I mean, I'm a former educator, but I was also a parent of children who went to Catholic school. I have grandchildren in public and in non-public school right now. I think, and what I really hope will happen, and this is what I'm seeing just in talking to former colleagues and just people, in the neighborhood, there's a new appreciation on the part of teachers for what parents are going through, trying to be the glue that's holding everything together at home, and for the parents to see a different perspective on what teachers over the years have gone through, trying to be the glue in school to hold things together. And it's not either or, it should be and both. Both parents and teachers need to be reminded themselves of their role to advocate for the children, because when the dust settles, it's all about what is best for the children. Why do we do what we do, whether we're parents or whether we're teachers? Why do we do what we do? What is it that we want the most for our children? We want happy children. Children need to love where they learn.
Thanks, Lillian. Well said. I'll plead guilty on this. The conversation's been so good, I let this run over past the half hour. But I think that this has been an amazing conversation, in my opinion. But before
Matt, there is one more question. I saw a hand up out there.
Yes, hi, my name is Wati Sana. I actually was, and maybe it's easier to take it offline. I was just actually wondering if someone might be able to help me with just understanding if somebody's trying to become a transplant. I'm in Massachusetts, and all three of, it's a family of three, myself and my two kids, we all are immunocompromised for various reasons, asthma, allergies, thyroid loss early on in life. So it just literally, I think long-term, it makes sense in the pandemic for us to make a move to someplace where we can just have a fresh start. And also the COVID numbers are just a lot better in Rhode Island than they are where we are. And
I'd be happy if you'd like to reach out to us.
Connecting with somebody about logistics of that, and if there's like I know, Boston has things like a welcome center or something like, I don't know what the equivalent would be in Rhode Island or.
Yeah, I think if you reach out to us directly on our website, edchoiceri.org, and you can send us an email through the website. I don't have a particular specialty in that, but I'm happy to see if I can find somebody who may be able to direct you and help you out in that ability. So
you want me to go to the website?
Yep. If you can go to the website and send an email, go to edchoiceri.org and contact us. We have our contact information on there, and reach out to us.
Okay.
And I'll see if we can find somebody who might be able to help you out.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
I'll do that right after.
Yeah, appreciate it. Before we wrap up, Ed, did you want to say any final words on this? Maybe just a very brief finish here for us.
Thanks, Matt. And once again, I want to thank everyone. It's great visiting with all of you. I wish we could do this in person. It's nice to see some old friends, especially Miss Virginia. Missing seeing you here in Rhode Island, but we're glad to have this opportunity to come together, and we're glad to have the opportunity to continue the discussion of how we can provide equal access to all forms of quality education for every child in the state of Rhode Island. But as you can see, we are a group of family and parent volunteers. We need as much help as we can possibly get together. So please join us. And as Virginia said, a choir with one voice is nice, but a choir with 1,000 voices makes a tremendous impact. So please join us. We'd love to have you in our choir. Matt, thank you for doing an excellent job.
Oh, thanks, Ed. And just to wrap it up, I want to say to everybody, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for joining us. Thanks. I hope I didn't leave anybody out here, but thank you to the entire board and everybody behind the scenes who put this together. It's a lot of work. Everybody did an amazing job. And kind of as a takeaway, if you go to edchoiceri.org, just to keep up to date with what's going on in the school choice movement, we would greatly appreciate it. So thank you very much, everyone. Oh, Elsie, I'm sorry. Elsie, did you have one more final word here? Oh, you're on mute, Elsie.
That's just a clap.
Oh, okay,
that was
sorry.
one of those. I'm just clapping my hands. Good job, everybody.
Hey, thanks, everybody. Again, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to collaborating in the future. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.